Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Eugene Chan. Our guest tonight is Mrs. Rita Fan, who is a very respected and one of the most senior members of the Hong Kong political fraternity, who has an outstanding track record of community service. She was a member of the Legislative Council even before 1997 and was elected as the president of the Provisional Legislative Council in 1997, which transited through the handover of Hong Kong. She then continued as the president of the first, second and third legislative councils, serving for 11 years. She also served on the National People's Congress until her retirement in 2018. She is now a non-official member of the Candidate Eligibility Review Committee. And welcome, Mrs. Fan.
Thank you, Eugene.
It is indeed our honor to have you here tonight because you are not only just a veteran, but also a legend of the Hong Kong political scene. You have served Hong Kong before, during and after the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR. And as tonight's title suggests, we want to ask the viewers who would like to know more about the Legislative Council, maybe in the very short sentences or a few minutes, tell us what is the most important function of the Legislative Council?
Well, it is the legislature of Hong Kong, so it makes laws, and it also approves the budget, and also approves the proposals for government spending. In short, they are the reflection or the mouthpiece of the community, representing different interests in one chamber.
Right. So, Rita, as you know, the past election that was carried on Sunday, yes, is the first election, major election after this first Legislative Council election after the improved electoral system, which the aim is having the patriots administering Hong Kong. Now it's been done. Will you say that the aim has been achieved?
I believe the aim has been achieved. I believe we're looking at a new Legislative Council who wanted to serve the Hong Kong public, but at the same time remains patriotic to Hong Kong and our motherland. I believe this will be a change from what we have seen previously.
Right. What are your preliminary views on the results of the election?
Well, I think a lot of concentration or interest was placed on the district election. And it is, of course, a lower number compared to the previous ones. The previous ones, by and large, is around 50% plus or minus. This time it's only about 30%.
Right.
This is expected because the two major democratic parties, they call themselves democratic, right?
Yes. They call themselves, yes.
Yes, and they boycotted the election. So many of their supporters feel that they don't know who to vote for, so they didn't really come for the voting. This is very sad, but I hope that in years to come, probably in the next few years, these voters who did not vote this time will find new persons to support, because they will see their performance in the Legislative Council. And then I believe the situation will gradually move back to what it used to be.
Right. Actually, I think we have to thank the 1.3 million Hong Kong people who come out to vote to support Hong Kong to have a better future, isn't it?
Yes. Actually, I think many of them who we previously do not consider to be the pro-establishment voters voted.
Right.
Yes. And I think the reason they vote is because they want to see Hong Kong with a better future.
Right. Right. Now let's move on to talk about some of the logistics of the election. As we all remembered at the recent election committee election, it took 14 hours for the results to come out. There are some problems with the voting papers, documents, various issues. And now we have to give compliments to the CMAB, who have actually improved a lot of things. They were issuing of the votes by electronic means. Although the internet was down for a couple of hours, also for some short time, they have rectified that. Are you happy with the overall logistics of the whole election?
I think our government has learned from experience.
Right.
And they have overcome quite a few of those problem areas.
Yes.
from previous elections. And yes, they have improved. There are also factors which I believe can be further improved.
Right.
For example, choosing sites as election voting sites where the Wi-Fi transmission is not ensured. This should be tested beforehand.
Yes.
But let's be realistic about it. This is a very large-scale election.
Yes.
And the most important thing is it is a fair election, and the voters go to vote without any pressure, without any bias, without anyone trying to influence them.
Right.
So I think this is a very fair, just, and a good election.
Yes, and we also noticed, I mean, when we were on the street, we saw actually the presence of the police is a lot more, you feel that a lot more, they have a strong presence, as Commissioner Siu has said, over 10,000 police were deployed to ensure this election went smoothly. I mean, this wasn't needed at your time. Why do you think we need that?
Well, we needed that because of the riots which happened in 2019.
Right.
There was no personal safety guarantee. People were concerned that they don't want to be suddenly stopped in the street and asked, what are your beliefs?
Exactly.
So the presence of the police there is twofold. First of all, it is to make sure that those people who are still thinking of causing trouble would think 3 times before they do anything. The second thing is, before the election, we actually had a few cases whereby police were able to find and broke down some of these places where they hold weapons and all kinds of things which can be used to disrupt the peace of Hong Kong.
Right.
So I believe that the presence of the police really make voters like me, when I go to vote, I saw the police and said, I'm pretty safe.
Yes. Yes. And also this time we had polling stations at the 3 border checks so that our mainland Hong Kong residents can come to vote. I think we had over 110,000 eligible voters who can vote. And do you think this is a new way forward?
I think this is very important because they are Hong Kong people. They worked and live in the mainland, but their heart is still in Hong Kong.
Right.
And they are our permanent residents with voting rights. So we have to do something for them. And I'm glad that the government has come to this decision, and actually it went quite smoothly. The other thing is, of course, there's another improvement for seniors like me. I don't have to queue up again in the past for hours. I just basically, I have a special line, so I don't have to stand there for a long time. I think this is good.
Yeah, we have to thank the Bureau again, because I think you have the waiting time posted on the internet and outside to let you know how long is the waiting time. So before we move on to another area, I want to ask you about the voting rate that we just mentioned. You see that there are a lot of advertisement everywhere. The officials are all coming to have video clips, and even all the public transport was free yesterday. And some of the firms actually give people a day's rest today if they went to vote. Do you think the hard work has paid off to get us a 30% turnout rate, voting rate?
I think this is the beginning of a very good path for Hong Kong. We have gone the wrong way.
Right.
And even though the voting rates are higher, I mean in a direct election, in the district elections, it doesn't bring us the result that we want.
Right.
The taste of the pudding is when you eat it.
Right.
Not because of how many icing you have on it.
Right.
And I consider the voting rates is the icing on the cake.
Right.
And I believe and I hope that our new Legislative Council will give us the cake that we would like to eat.
Right. Rita, let's move on to one area before the break. It's talking about the accusations from the foreign government and media. And I mean, Mr. Simon Pei, the Commissioner of ICAC, was here 2 weeks ago, and he told us about the new electoral rules. 10 people were arrested, 2 are being charged, saying that it's wrong to incite people not to vote or even cast a blank vote. But as I said, the Wall Street Journal, Sunday Times and Britain Foreign Minister, they all make comments. And may I just quickly mention that to you and the viewers. The Wall Street Journal described our elections as a sham. They should boycott, and blank ballots are one of the last way Hong Kongers to express their political views. The Sunday Times editorial last week suggested Hong Kongers should boycott the election, and the Britain Foreign Minister released on the report, they say that expressing doubt honour to judicial independence. How would you respond to such accusations?
I think, first of all, I would laugh. Not that I laugh it off. I laugh at their prejudice, bias, and ignorance. They should have realized that in Hong Kong you have the right to vote and you are free to vote or not to vote. That's
Right.
your choice.
Right.
This is not necessarily the choice in some Western countries. But never mind this. They have been, the Western media, the ones you mentioned, and also the Foreign Minister of UK, has continuously tried to attempted in every possible way to denounce what Hong Kong is doing now.
Right.
They denounce the national security law because it gives Hong Kong the peace and stability we needed.
Right.
They denounce our new election system because it will enable Hong Kong to be ruled by people who love the motherland and also love Hong Kong.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's take a break and don't go away. Welcome back. We have been talking with Mrs. Rita Fan about the recent national election that was just held on Sunday. We've been discussing the processes surrounding the election, and now we move on to see if Mrs. Fan thinks the results will be in the best interest of Hong Kong. So Rita, before the break, we slightly mentioned about the foreign accusations. Just a very simple question. Hopefully you get a simple answer. Why is Hong Kong suddenly on this international chessboard, which most Hong Kongers didn't realize we are there, but obviously we are now? Why are we suddenly become a subject of discussion?
It is because of the conflict that has occurred between the United States plus their Western allies against China. And the reason for this conflict is the United States, their politicians, their leaders are very concerned that the number one status of US might be challenged by China,
Right.
although the latter has no such intention.
Right. Maybe we move on to the actual election results. We had 153 candidates running for 90 seats. Previously, it was 70 seats. And do you think at the end of all the results are out now, one of the objectives, apart from Patriots administrating Hong Kong, is also having a wider representation. Do you think that has also been achieved?
I think so, because you see, going for election is a personal decision. There are many well-known figures in Hong Kong who decided that they are not going to enter the race. And they have their political reason, and indeed their intention is to lower the voting rates so that their Western masters could accuse Hong Kong and our central authority of controlling an election. You know, so it's all a sort of a plot, but that doesn't matter, because we can't stop other people from doing what they want to do, even though it's sabotaging Hong Kong. But Hong Kong is in the middle of this political maneuver, and we cannot by ourselves get out of it. But what we can do is we can improve the efficiency, the ability of our legislative council. We can ensure that our government and the legislative council, the administration and the legislative council would be able to work together and also be able to check and balance.
Right.
So the whole thing is, my view, very simply, is whatever we cannot control, we don't need to spend time talking about it or crying over spilled milk.
Yes.
But we must do what we can. And there's a lot of things that Hong Kong people can do that our counterpart in the mainland can help us and cooperate with us.
Right.
It is up to us to make use of the opportunity.
Rita, also another thing that we hear in the grapevine is that if you look at the election committee subsector, where 1,500 or 1,400 plus election committee members are going to vote for the 40 member legislature, they said it's going to be a list. It's going to be a pre-planned list. Has that happened?
Well, as far as I know, I didn't see anyone having any list.
Right.
Well, the point is really quite simple. All those who have entered into the race, and their sort of political beliefs are quite different. They go into the race, and then since we, as the candidate eligibility review committee, has already passed them, and
Right.
in fact we passed basically everybody
Yep.
except one, then it is an open race.
Right.
There's no need for any lists or any recommendation. Of course, there will be people ringing you up and say, "How about voting for my friend?" You know,
Right.
that's fine.
Right.
You know. But it is a fair election.
So definitely, the evidence suggests that it has been fair and a good, truly competitive election.
Not only that, we have got rid of this habit of these candidates smearing each other, black-mouthing, even fabricating,
Right.
news and so on. This has happened all the time.
Right. One quick question for you to answer. A lot of the people who may not have supported the election said that a lot of the voters are actually, they can't qualify as a voter. Either you have to be the chairman of a certain organization or as ex-official. It's definitely not as democratic as before. How would you answer them?
Well, you see, one man, one vote is in the district election.
Right.
For the
Council.
election committee, what we wanted is people who do have support in his own professional field. So therefore, when they vote for candidates, they would be voting for these candidates who they know can do the job. So there's a difference. And the election committee basically is the committee in future,
Right, yes.
which will elect the chief executive.
Right.
So we need people who are influential in this group.
Okay, fair comment. Another thing I want to ask you, I'm sure the viewers want to know, that look at the result, there's basically the same color has been elected as a one court, because none of the non-establishment has been voted in except Dixie Yuen, and there's only one person. And do you think that will become a rubber stamp legislative council from now on? Or on the other side, there are people saying that they're going to make sure they check and balance the government. Will the people end up arguing for the sake of arguing? There are two school of thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, there's no reason to believe that people who are pro-establishment would agree with the government all the time,
Right.
because they don't. And I have proof for this because I was the president of the Provincial Legislative Council.
Right.
And of course, all the council members there would be considered to be pro-establishment.
Right.
Well, the fact is they do not always agree with the government. They turn down government requests for abolishing certain law.
Right.
They amend a number of legislations proposed by the government. So actually, whether you are pro-establishment or not does not mean that you would accept what the government hand out.
Right.
What it means is you tend to understand the problems that the government face.
Right.
Instead of always opposing, you tend to give suggestions, proposals on how to go ahead. If the direction is right, to make it a better proposal than before.
Right.
So to say that because these are pro-establishment figures, they will do whatever the government want them to do is wrong.
Right.
That is.
Peter, yeah. If you say that means what we have seen in the last few years in terms of disruptions or filibustering shouldn't be happening anymore. But however, there used to be 43 pro-establishment legislators. Now, if there are going to be 90 all patriots, that doesn't mean that it's going to take the government twice as long to get through a bill, because you do have to respect each legislator and have to go and lobby for their support.
Well, I think actually the government also needs some improvement. The head of the various branches, they have to contact legislators themselves on a personal level.
Right.
Because in the past, I have received complaints of you don't receive a call from the
government,
principal officials. You only receive the call for the political assistant, or at best the deputy.
Right.
Now, but they would go out to talk, or even invite non-pro-establishment legislative councillors to lunch or so on. So no matter what the political stance is, I believe government officials, particularly principal officers, must try to build up a personal relationship with at least some of them. You don't have to do it with all 90 of them. Some of them who knows your area more, who tends to have an interest in your area, you should build up a personal relationship.
Right, yes. Rita, I mean, we are now at time goes very fast. We'd like to hear more, but let's move on to the next election, which is the chief executive election. And as at today, there are no candidates yet. No one has said that they're going to run. And Mr. Xia Baolong has mentioned the 5 criteria. Do you think we are going to end up to have more than one candidate going for election, which is going to be in 3 months' time?
I think it is most likely that we will have more than one candidate.
Right, yes. And also, if you look at the basic law, every CE can serve up to a maximum of 2 terms.
Yes.
As at today again, it seems like every chief executive, actually at this stage, no one has actually done the second term. Is this job such a formidable job, or such daunting, that no one can actually get a second term? I'm not saying Mrs. Lam won't do it, I'm just saying that as at today.
Yes. It is not an easy job. I think everybody agree on this. You have to gain the trust of at least a large proportion of Hong Kong population. You have to stand up to the pressure that has been placed upon you by all the Western power, who is also our trading partner, which we do not want to upset. You have to ensure that some of the problems, in fact most of the problems which were not dealt with in the past administration, are being dealt with now energetically with a schedule for Hong Kong citizens to look forward to.
Right.
And of course, you have to encourage Hong Kong citizens to make full use of the opportunity of the new developments in the Greater Bay Area and also the whole of China.
Right, okay.
So,
yes.
It's trying.
It's trying. Thank you, Mrs. Fan, for sharing your wisdom and reassuring us that the improved electoral system has achieved its aim of having only patriots administrating Hong Kong. We look forward to a renewed LegCo, bringing Hong Kong back to the path of prosperity and stability. And thank you for joining us, and have a good week and good night.